UFC Fight Night Fight Island 8, Chiesa versus Magny took place just now, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, give my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelim opener of Victoria Leonardo versus Manon Fiorot. What an amazing fight while it lasted. Great performance by Manon Fiorot. Victoria Leonardo took some shots, gave some good shots back as well at times, but Manon Fiorot was just too good for her on the feet, and eventually finished it with a head kick in the second round. I said in the middle of this when it was finished, think about Holloway versus Qatar and how quickly the Victoria Leonardo stoppage was, but that was, in my opinion, a good stoppage. She was shelling up, she wasn't throwing anything back, but they let Qatar take a beating now that I'm looking back on it, compared to the stoppage there. Jesus, maybe they should have stepped in that fourth round, but Manon Fiorot is an amazing fighter, landed some good shots on the feet, looked great on the feet as well, looked very technical, stuffed some takedowns as well in the fight. I thought she looked amazing, got the head kick finish in the second round. Great new addition to the women's flyweight division, actually some skill, which is hard to find in the women's flyweight division. So, skilled fighter. Looking forward to seeing her improve. I think she should take some time off. She's a young girl. She can improve some takedown defense. I don't want her to just get fed to some girl who knows what she's doing on the ground and then maybe have some trouble there. Give her some time, but a great performance from Manon Fiorot. Great win. Moving on up the card, Umar Nurmagomedov versus Sergey Morozov. Again, an amazing fight while it lasted. Good performance from both men. Sergey Morozov surprised me here because he had some great takedown defense. And I said going into this one, I hope that Umar Nurmagomedov doesn't just steamroll this guy in the first round and get a first round TKO. I really hope that Sergey Morozov shows up and gives some good defensive action, and he did. He defended a bunch of takedowns, he escaped a bunch of bad situations, he had his back taken at one point but survived it and ended up in a good position. Umar Nurmagomedov just showed that even through some adversity, which was great to see in his UFC debut, even through some adversity, he can still manage to get the job done. He doesn't gas out. He doesn't slow down. He came out there in the second round, showed some great grappling again, eventually getting himself the rear naked choke. Umar had a great performance. What can I say? I know Khabib was very stressed out for him as the fight went past the first round, and that's not usually the case with Umar, but he showed that he can do things well in the second as well. I'm so glad that we get to see a Nurmagomedov surnamed person go out there and throw some great shots on the feet. I know Saeed does it, but he's not a member of the family, of course. Umar has some great stand-up. He was throwing that question mark kick a bunch of times. I like watching him fight. I like to see what he does next in the bantamweight division. He's only 24 years of age, so I say let him take some time off. I know Khabib said he wanted him to come back in August. That sounds about right, and then Khabib said he wants to come back again after that in December. So let's get him a good opponent in the bantamweight division. I don't know who it's going to be. Benito Lopez is 2-1 in the division. I think he's coming off a win right now. Give him one of these bantamweights coming off of a win. And for Sergey Morozov, keep him in the UFC as well. 16-4. Great performance against Umar. I thought he had a good first round. Landed some shots. Defended some shots of takedowns especially. Had some great sprawls. There's nothing to be ashamed about. It's Umar Nurmagomedov. He was going to destroy you. It was just a matter of how quickly he was going to do it. He ended up getting a submission in the second round. Good stuff from Umar Nurmagomedov. Great performance. Moving on up the card. Mike Davis versus Mason Jones. I wish the card ended here. Anyone else? The rest of the card was appalling. But I wish the card ended right here, because these three fights were like the best fight night I've ever seen. Fiorot did well for a women's flyweight and a women's fighter overall. Umar had a great performance against Sergey with some great skill shown. Davis and Mason Jones went to war for 3 rounds, and I'm so glad that despite not getting his hand raised like he should have done, Mason Jones still got a 50k bonus. I'm going to assume he got a 50k bonus because there's no other single fight on the entire card that can compete with this one for fight of the night. So Mason Jones gets a nice 50k even though he got the loss, which he shouldn't have got in my opinion. I thought he won the second and third round quite clearly. I've heard a lot of people saying that robberies aren't close decisions aren't robberies, bad decisions aren't robberies, it could have been a draw. That just tells me that you don't know what to say about round 2 or 3 to give it to Mike Davis. That fight should have gone to Mason Jones. I know a lot of people overlooked him and picked Mike Davis in the fight. I heard a lot of people telling me that DC was being incredibly biased with the commentary as well, openly saying who he thinks is winning, which I think a commentary team needs to shut the fuck up about, because DC did the same thing for Brandon Moreno. He did the same thing for Gaethje against Ferguson. He did the same thing for Gaethje against Poirier. Remember that one? I don't like DC's commentary at times, and if that is true, I hope he wasn't doing that. But Mason Jones versus Mike Davis, great fight. Davis showed some grappling in the first round. I think it took Mason Jones off guard. Mason Jones went out there expecting a bit of a scrap on the feet and wanted to go toe-to-toe with Davis. Every time they got into a little bit of an exchange, Davis just dived right underneath. He's got good wrestling anyway. He's got a good wrestling background. Dived straight underneath, got the double leg. Great takedowns every time. I liked Mike Davis's performance. I'm very high on Mike Davis. I know he says he wants to move back down to the featherweight division right now, which I am all aboard for because he looked great against Sadiq Yusuff there. So if he wants to move back down, that's fine. But Mason Jones, in my opinion, won the second and third round of that fight. And I know that he's okay with the fight going against him, but when he watches that back and he watches what he did in the second, third round, which was basically outland and walk down Davis against the cage the entire time, I think he's going to be pretty salty about that one, in all honesty. I know in the moment, maybe he doesn't realise, but I thought he won the fight in rounds 2 and 3. I don't see Mike Davis getting round 2. Jones got a takedown at the end, and he outlanded him quite big in round 2 as well. Round 3, Mason Jones outlanded him again, and it was just the visuals of the fight, no? Of all the criteria, shots landed, significant strikes landed, takedowns, of all the criteria you take into consideration when you're judging a fight, did anyone get dropped, did anyone get rocked, anything like that happen? No. Mason Jones won on strikes in round 3. He walked him down the entire time, and just the visuals, Mike Davis was scooting around for his life in that fight. Mason Jones just would not stop coming for him, and Mike Davis was just trying to get away from him in the majority of that fight, in my opinion, in second and third round. I know he landed some good shots. Are we trying to say that Jones didn't land some tasty spinning back kicks to the body and some great jabs in that fight and some great right hands himself? He tagged Mike Davis with a bunch of shots in that fight, and Davis would just veer out towards the other side of the cage and start shaking his head at Mason Jones. Like, that tells you the shot landed. I know Jones's mouthpiece came out, but that doesn't really tell me how effective the shot was. That just tells me that Jones's mouth was open when it landed. Either way, I thought Mason Jones won the fight very, very clearly. 2 rounds to 1. It's not a robbery, I'll be honest with you guys. Round 3 is genuinely a close round. I just know that Jones won, and it was also a bit weird to me that they didn't give it to Jones, because I had Jones winning both of those 2 rounds at the end before the end of the round. And at the end of the round in round 2, he got on top and landed big shots. And at the end of the round in round 3, he starts busting up Davis against the cage with knees, lands a good one to the face, and at the end of the fight, Mike Davis sinks down to his arms like he can't even stand because he just got hit with a massive shot, and Mason Jones is walking around with his hands up. I definitely thought Mason Jones won that fight 2 rounds to 1. Bad decisions are not robberies, but they kind of are, because if Whittaker versus Till went to Darren Till, it would be a robbery. It would. I know people like to say that when they picked Mike Davis and they can't think of a way to say that he won. Same reason that Jones fan says this about Reyes. Close fights aren't robberies, get over yourself. You can have a close fight and it can still really have a clear winner, but both guys showed amazing talent. Davis is great. Mason Jones is great. I consider Jones 11-0 undefeated coming off a win against Mike Davis right now, so I'm going to take that into consideration. I think both guys need to take some time off because that was a war, and that 50k bonus is going to help out with that as well. Great performance from both. Both guys are young, so I'm looking forward to seeing what improvements they can make. Mike Davis, I believe, 28. Mason Jones, like 25. We'll see what goes down. Lightweight is stacked with talent top to bottom. Moving on, Francisco Figueiredo versus Jerome Rivera. And here's where the card got interesting. We know, and I said this before the fight card started, I picked Jerome Rivera to win this. I said this before the fight card started. Francisco Figueiredo is not the good one out of the Figueiredo family. I mean, that's just very obvious. He kept getting takedowns. I was just so shocked that Jerome Rivera was almost opting into a lot of those grappling situations in the fight. Like, he was doing so well against Francisco Figueiredo on the feet. And again, I heard that the commentary was going crazy for Francisco because of his brother being in the UFC, of course. But he won the fight very clearly. He got takedown. He got control in the first 2 rounds. Maybe you can argue that Jerome Rivera won the third just off of activity and landing a few more shots and maybe even looking like he rocked Francisco Figueiredo at one point. But Francisco Figueiredo, good fighter. He just kept, I don't know why Jerome Rivera kept shooting takedowns on him. In all honesty, like, Jerome Rivera was clearly losing 2 rounds. There is, and I want to say this very much so as well, there is not a single chance in the world that Jerome Rivera wins round 1 or 2. And in the 3rd round, he's trying to take Francisco Figueiredo down. And at the end of the 3rd round, he has his hands up in the air. So his coaches must have told him, you just need this last round and you've won. They can't have told him possibly whatsoever that he needed a finish in that bout. Otherwise, he would have stayed on the feet and kept doing what he was doing and landing good shots in the striking. His coaches must have said he won rounds 1 or 2. There's no way of describing his activities in the third round without knowing that his coaches told him he won rounds 1 or 2. Because he thought he won at the end of the fight. So I think Jerome Rivera, first of all, should be cut from the UFC. He's lost to Tyson Nam, who we'll get to in a second. And he also lost to Francisco Figueiredo as well. Cut him from the UFC completely. And also Jerome Rivera, you're a young guy, you can bounce back. Get rid of your corner. Get rid of your coaches. Get rid of everyone. They don't know what they're fucking doing. Ignore them, whatever they say. Don't shoot for takedowns and try to secure a round in round 3 and think you've won a fight. You need a finish. Your coaches should have told you that. But great performance by... Not even a great performance. It was there. The whole card moving on was kind of... Until we get to the bigger ones in the closer towards the main event ones. But yeah, you know. Moving on up the card. Dalcha versus Marcus Perez. I picked Dalcha to win. But again, embarrassing performance from both of them. We are the Ultimate Fighting Championships. I consider maybe cutting both of them, but Dalcha won the fight. He's 11-2. He's in the middleweight division now, but I swear to God, Perez is alright. He did okay on short notice against Dalcha. He didn't get flattened, KO'd, so that's not too bad. I know he's going to be cut from the UFC now, 100%. I don't know how he wasn't cut in the first place, but here he is again, stepping up on short notice. Good for him. He got his pay. Definitely time to cut him from the UFC, but Dalcha, I mean... He just swung overhands looking at the ground and then shot takedowns and got them with strength and then just sat in half guard the whole time. And Marcus Perez almost had some submissions. He almost had an omoplata at one point in the fight, but he slipped off the shoulder. Round 1 was close. I gave it to Dalcha because he was on top and he landed good shots. Round 2 was Dalcha round 100% as well. Round 3 could have been Perez's. I don't even know what happened in round 3. I've kind of blocked it out of my memory to protect my eyes. But Dalcha, even though I picked him to win, he looks kind of horrendous, and so did Marcus Perez, and it just goes to show how stacked that middleweight division that Dana White says is the most stacked division in the UFC is. Very stacked middleweight division. Look at the talent level, you know what I mean? But yeah, interesting fight. Dalcha gets a win. I don't know who I want to see him take on next. I really don't have an appetite to watch him again, in all honesty. Yeah. It was interesting, I guess. Moving on, up the card to another fight, Sumaduerji versus Zaruk Adeshev. Decent fight, this one. Actually a decent fight. Not so bad as the rest of them that we've watched, but other than, the last 2 fights that we watched. But this one was okay. Sumaduerji versus Zaruk Adeshev. I expected Sumaduerji to go out there and win. I wanted him to do it a little bit more impressively because Sumaduerji is very good. And I think it's very obvious, and he's very huge for flyweight as well, and he's got a long reach. But Zaruk Adeshev, credit to him. I know he's 3-3 now, and we're going to have to get rid of him 100%. There's no way we can have him in our flyweight division. Well, maybe the female flyweight division, he might get ranked. But 3-3 is not a record that belongs here. He's got to go, but fair play to him. He came out swinging, and he did not care about the size difference whatsoever. He landed some good shots in that fight. He even looked like he rocked Sumaduerji at one point, but Maduerji won the first round. He won the second round with a brutal knockdown and a good sequence at the end as well, where he landed some great shots. Then he won the third round as well. Sumaduerji, great performance. Wants a ranked opponent. I don't blame him. Let's give him the winner of Tim Elliott versus Jordan Espinoza. Maduerji's going to be a force to be reckoned with at flyweight, and he's still young and only getting better. Let's take our time. I know they have an Asia card coming up that they want to do Weili Zhang versus Rose Namajunas on. Weili Zhang, Rose Namajunas, main event of the fight night. Co-main event, Li Jingliang versus someone at welterweight, who knows. Sumaduerji in the feature fight against the winner of Tim Elliott versus Jordan Espinoza. You got yourself a card. Moving on to someone else. Ricky Simone versus Gaetano Perillo. Great fight. Well, not a great fight, but a technical fight from Ricky Simone. Good takedowns that he used. He used very good technique. This was a great technique fight. Very good performance by Ricky Simone. Landed some decent shots on the feet, but didn't even feel the need to risk it on the feet, so he just went straight for the grappling. Got down Perillo whenever he wanted to, it feels like. But Perillo showed some great takedown defense, got back up occasionally, got against the cage, but then Ricky Simone would just reshoot a great double leg takedown, get his hands together, scoop him up and put him down again, eventually leading to the arm triangle submission. One thing I loved about this is that it showed that Ricky Simone is more versatile and he can just smush people if he wants to, because I know Ricky Simone sometimes gets caught up in a little bit of a scrap and his chin is a little bit interesting for a guy who cuts a lot of weight at bantamweight. His chin can be interesting at times, but I think he looked good here against Perillo. Looked great, landed good shots in the clinch, got his takedowns when he needed them, reshot a takedown that was bad in the first place. He had a single leg at one point, and Perillo had him framed off, so he just left it, spinning elbowed, and shot right back in on a double leg again. Great IQ from Simone in the fight to get himself a safe and easy win. Submission in the second round, and yeah, good performance. And he called out Brian Kelleher afterwards, and I like the spice between them. Simone says, "You got lucky pulling out," which is a great little line from Kelleher, but Ricky Simone's line, "Boom, boom, Baggins, I'm going to send you back to the Shire." I didn't even know there was this. Now this could be co-main event of a fight night. I don't even mind. Ricky Simone versus Brian Kelleher, two of my favourite fighters to watch, especially Brian. I think Brian Kelleher is one of the most underrated fighters on the roster. He does not have boring fights, ever, and he always comes out to scrap. I love him. But Ricky Simone versus Brian Kelleher is a great matchup to make next. Bring him back in March or April. Let's get him straight in there. Ricky Simone took no damage and he wants a quick turnaround. Let's make it happen in March. Moving on, Omari Akhmedov versus Tom Breeze. Great fight. I was crashing all over the place trying to watch this, but I caught glimpses of different moments. I mean, Omari Akhmedov just kind of got the takedown in the early round and looked like he was going to just start smashing Tom Breeze 10-8 wise. But then Tom Breeze at the end of the round ended up having a good submission attempt, had a couple of close submission attempts in the fight overall. But the main one that he was going for is the naked choke at the end of the first round. Put Omari in a bad position, but still I gave Omari Akhmedov the round 10-9. Just showed that there's levels in grappling. And Tom Breeze kind of got smushed and eventually submitted in round 2. I think it was again with an arm triangle choke 2 in a row. And I tell you this, Tom Breeze, I thought he went limp originally, and then he put his thumb up afterwards. I thought he was trying to fake not being... I think I know what Tom Breeze did. It was a weird thing. His arm went limp, and he sort of just left it there when the referee grabbed it. Then the ref grabbed it again, and he put his thumb up. I think the ref needs to trust his first instinct there, because I think by the ref grabbing his hand, he's like rushing a bit of... I don't even know what's happening, but I thought Breeze was out in the first place, and then he puts the thumb up. And then the tap happens, and then it's over. Omari Akhmedov gets the submission win. I have no idea how he was an underdog. I picked him as an underdog. I made money on him as an underdog. Win a parlay with him and Ricky Simone. So good job, Omari Akhmedov. Older guy. I kind of wish Tom Breeze would have got it done, but he's not that good. And he beat KB Buller, and that's KB Buller. And I think we realise that now. Great performance again from Omari Akhmedov. Shows you how good Weidman is. He's still our boy. Moving on to the main card of the fight night. Lerone Murphy versus Douglas Silva, the Andrade. You know what? It was alright. It was alright. It was an alright performance from Lerone Murphy. Douglas Silva, the Andrade, fair play, came to scrap. He really did come to scrap. I just think Lerone Murphy just landed a little bit too much each round. I missed a bit of the first. I missed a bit of the second as well. I caught the whole third round. But great performance by Lerone Murphy. Wasn't spectacular, though. I wanted him to go out there and really put a whooping on Douglas because he was way bigger than him. He was way bigger than Douglas Silva, the Andrade. I know that the Andrade is a strong guy, but he's a former bantamweight. And I wanted Lerone Murphy to go out there and get a TKO win and put a statement on him. But great job by Douglas Silva, the Andrade. Cracked Lerone Murphy at the start of the third round. And if not for that takedown at the end of the third, Lerone Murphy might have lost that round as well. But he won the first, won the second, won the third. 30-27, unanimous decision win. Great performance by Lerone Murphy. I don't know who he wants next, but we're still going to need to build him for now, I believe. One more fight in the featherweight division, maybe two. Then we'll start talking about jumping him towards those rankings. I would recommend a fight with a guy by the name of... Give me a second here while I find out this information. Lerone Murphy, great win over Ricardo Ramos. Great performance against Zubaira Tukhugov as well on short notice. I thought Zubaira won, but they gave it a draw. But still, great performance against Zubaira Tukhugov on short notice. He's a great fighter. He's a really good fighter, and we've got something here, and he's young, and he's got time to improve. He's now going to be ranked number 38 or 37. I think we can do Lerone Murphy versus a Gavin Tucker. Winner of that one gets a jump up just outside the rankings. A Lerone Murphy versus a, I don't know, maybe a guy by the name of Makwana Mirkani. They're both European. We can have a European card at some point and put both of them on there, even though Makwana is coming off a loss. We can do a Lerone Murphy versus Ilia Topuria. I know we're not going to want to do that one because we kind of want to build up all these names individually, but still, a Lerone Murphy versus Darren Elkins would be another matchup you could make. Let's give him one more, then another fight, and then we'll get him in the rankings after that one. Good performance by him. Clean, technical. Got cracked a couple of times, but it was good to see him face some adversity. And good performance by Douglas. Yeah, he's shredded as fuck, but I think Lerone should have had an easier time. But good performance nevertheless. Moving on up the card to the next one. Matthew Schnell versus Tyson Nam. Way too friendly for my liking. I thought Matt Schnell won the fight clearly. I don't know how it was a split decision. And people in my comments were saying, I picked Tyson Nam to win. I could have been biased. I watched the fight. I don't know how. I mean, there's an argument for not even Nam winning a round. I think he maybe could have got the third. I was kind of thinking he did get the third at one point because he landed some good shots at the end and landed some good combinations at one point and some big shots. But Schnell was looking all right, pretty technical, slow-paced fight, but overall it was a good performance by Schnell. Got the job done, which is all that matters, I guess, in the end. But, you know, Schnell gets it done. Great performance, 19-14 in the first, 33-22 in the second. And people had Nam winning the second round. I didn't. I thought that, like, Schnell could win the second. But, you know, all good. 33-22 again in the third. So even the third round is like there's no argument. I didn't even know what I was watching. Maybe Schnell just wasn't landing too many hard shots. So they're unnoticeable. But good shots from Matt Schnell in the fight. Great head movement as well. Nam just, you know what was weird? I felt like they were on slow motion in the first round. And they started to sort of ramp up the speed of their shots as the fight went on. Usually it's the opposite way round. I don't know what happened. But I just felt like Nam was a little bit too friendly. A little bit too smiley. Put the pressure on and get the win. Stop smiling every time Matt Schnell does anything in front of you. You absolute disgrace. But all good from Tyson Nam. Good stuff. Matt Schnell gets the job done. Maybe we can do Matt Schnell versus a Tagir Ulanbekov or a David Dvorak next. Those will be good matchups. Moving on to Roxanne Modafferi versus Vivian Araújo. How do I politely tell a girl to leave the UFC? Vivian Araújo just pieced her up every single round. Round 1 was an absolute schooling. She dropped her at one point in the round, pieced her up every single time Modafferi tried to go in and land anything. I don't even trust these strike numbers on Modafferi because nearly everything she threw was missing. 19% of her shots in the first. I just don't know how they're ranked. Vivian Araújo looked okay. She looked like she had technical boxing, good counter hooks every single time Modafferi would rush in with those jabs that were just not even attempting to land, I feel like. But, you know, ranked contenders, man. Top 10. Not even barely 15. They're top 10, Guru. Why am I talking to myself now? That's how bad it was. Honestly, man. Vivian Araújo looked okay. She looked good, but I just feel like we have to get rid of Roxanne Modafferi. And I don't want to pile onto her. She's probably a really nice person. But she's so unbelievably shit. She has to go. We can't have her under the brand name Ultimate Fighting Championship. 25-18. It's not even a bad women's record. It's not even a bad women's record, in all honesty. But I don't know how she wins fights, man. I genuinely have no idea how she wins fights. But she wins them. But I think after that loss, it's time to just start thinking about who we want to be seen as compared to, like, now we got a time where Bellator's starting to kind of compete with the name value that they have and PFL's getting some good names. I think it's time to really start vetting out these divisions. Modafferi don't belong, man. She doesn't know what she's doing and she's been in the game for like a decade. She's been training MMA for a decade and no one's told her to get in range of her opponent. It's like, I don't know what to do anymore. We got to get rid of her. She's not good enough to be here. And that's just, even if she wins, it doesn't matter. Even if she wins fights in the future, it doesn't matter. She can't be seen under our banner, in my opinion. And I'm sure she's very nice. I'm sure she is. She seems so nice. She seems like a primary school teacher kind of nice, you know? But get rid of her. She's terrible, and it's embarrassing to watch. And Araújo gets the job done, as she should. Moving on up the card to another fight on the card. Ike Villanueva versus Vinicius Mejia. I picked Vinicius Mejia to win. Ike Villanueva has been submitted a couple of times in his career. Vinicius Mejia is a jiu-jitsu specialist as well, so I thought he would go out there and get the submission win by taking down Ike Villanueva. But Ike Villanueva got the KO in the second round, and it was a brutal one as well. It was such a brutal finish from Ike Villanueva. I was I was shocked by the finish. Right hand over the top, left hand behind it, barely landed with it. The right hand was all he needed over the top. Great KO win. Vinicius Mejia can't fight for shit, and neither can Ike, man. Am I really going to go through the card like this? The UFC is manually updating their results as I'm on this card right now, which is cool. I've never seen that before. They also calculated the results of Chiesa Magny before Wale Alves. I think they've forgotten. Whatever. We're not going to get into it. It was a terrible card. The main card, after Lerone Murphy and Andrade, this free fight period of Schnell, Nam, Modafferi, Araújo, and Villanueva Mejia was kind of like, are we in the UFC right now, or are we watching fucking Bellator? What the fuck is going on? I know that Bellator fans are going to be like, don't say that, dude. The Bellator is just as good. Bellator is not just as good. Bellator, every time I watch it, is an embarrassment to MMA. In all honesty, all of the people on their cards, other than their main events and co-main events, are an embarrassment unless they're a hot prospect on the rise. In all honesty, I don't know how I want to become a UFC fighter now. This is what these cards do to my mind. I don't want CTE. I don't even want to break my nose. I don't want any problems in life in terms of damage taken. But fights like this make me think I can fucking do it. I can make a run for the light heavyweight belt because Vinicius Mejia is in the UFC getting paid tens of thousands of dollars. That's not a joke. He is there. And he is a jiu-jitsu guy who didn't shoot a single takedown in the fight. And he just looked fucking awful. And Ike Villanueva didn't even look that good. But I'm proud that Ike Villanueva win because he seems like a nice guy. He's got a family. He's going to get a 50k bonus as well, I'm sure. Good for him, man. Good for Ike Villanueva. What a dad, honestly. Coming in, obviously not physically gifted, not in his prime or anything like that, taking his damage in his career, but still getting it done and getting paid. You got to respect a man for doing that, and what a great KO it was. Definitely bonus worthy. Moving on up the card, Wale Alves versus Magny Lazzez. Speaking of bonus worthy performances, Wale Alves, it was ruined for me live because I looked over at my chat and I saw someone say body kick TKO. When I heard body kick TKO, I was watching it like 20 seconds delayed on my screen, and I thought, oh, Lazzez has got him. Body kick, Lazzez is probably going to KO this guy with a body kick or something. And I picked Lazzez to win this one because I was big on Lazzez and I was sort of over Wale Alves. Hasn't been in there for a while, has had some lackluster performances against Randy Brown in a more recent performance. He looked a little bit terrible there. He gasses out after the first. I thought Lazzez might be able to build on him as the fight went on, but Alves just did not give him that chance. He is so dangerous in that first round. So dangerous. Wale Alves. Great combination to start off the entire fight. Great combination. Backed up Lazzez immediately. Got him against the cage. Then some good shots there as well. Lazzez turned him around. Then they separate. And then Alves just blasts 3 hard switch kicks to the body. Over and over and over again. And they just put Lazzez down for good. And he shells up like a bitch. In all honesty. No offense to Magny Lazzez. But like he really cowered up there. Those must have really badly hurt him. I'm not saying he's a bitch. I'm sorry. I'm not saying he's a bitch. I'm just saying, like, the way he went down was like, oh, God, you're done. You're really... It was not like he got hurt to the body and you're like, oh, now time for the finish. It was like the body kick landed and you were like, oh, it's over. The fight is 100% over here. He got kicked in the body once. It was bad. He took it. He then tucked his elbow, so it must have hurt him in the first place. The next kick hit his elbow, and then he was like, "Oh fuck, my elbow! I don't want to hit my elbow." And then the next kick landed on his hip area, and he just fucking dropped immediately to the ground. Wale Alves landed some follow-up shots, and down he went. That's another performance bonus for Wale Alves. Great performance. He called out Nate Diaz. You aren't gonna get a fight with Nate. What are they fucking thinking? I'm talking about call-outs. We'll get to the main event in a second. What does he think is going to happen? Nate Diaz will go, yeah, cool, dude, and just call out Wale Alves instead of Justin Gaethje and Woodley and all of these other matchups he could have, and a rematch with Masvidal potentially. All of these other matchups he can have, and he's going to go for Wale Alves, unranked, outside the top 30 welterweights. Alright, I don't know. I mean, it will make headlines, but he's not going to get the fight. In my opinion, they should do something along the lines of Wale Alves versus maybe a guy along the names of... Let me just find a welterweight for him right now. Magny Lazzez, older guy. It sucks to see him lose, but he can turn around quickly. It was only a body shot. Not too much constant damage afterwards with those kind of things. He should be okay after a couple of days. Those ribs are probably going to hurt, but still. I say maybe do like a Wale Alves versus a... Where is Wale Alves ranked even? Pretty high up. I'd say maybe a Wale Alves versus an Alan Jouban. I'd watch it. Main event of a fight night. Put it on. Jouban versus Wale Alves. Good fight to make. Moving on in the main event. Michael Chiesa versus Magny. Embarrassing performance. I'm just going to refresh my page here because I put up a video talking about how shit it was. And it's got a decent response rate, to be fair. So I think I'm correct here. 81% of people agree with it. Terrible, man. Just a terrible show. God, this whole card, it made me hate the sport. Really badly hate the sport, because even though there were fun finishes, I just noticed so many technical errors. Ike Villanueva and Vinicius Mejia shouldn't even be here, let alone on the main card. And then I was thinking, you know what, Chiesa Magny, you know, it's not a great main event. It's probably not going to be fun or action-packed or crazy, but it's going to be technical, and I'm going to love it because of that. And it wasn't even technical. It was just shit. It was just shit. From start to finish, Chiesa just laid in half guard, and Magny just let him do it. And Magny would stuff a takedown, get double unders, easily out underhook Chiesa like it was nothing, out pummel him like it was nothing, get the body lock, shift Chiesa around like he's nothing in the clinch in rounds 3, 4, and 5. Then Magny would do something which only a person with some kind of mental disability would do. And he got the back of Michael Chiesa, and instead of separating away and being the 6'3" welterweight with an 80-inch reach and a 5.5-inch reach advantage over Michael Chiesa, he would do something what's called, I don't know what the technical word for it is. I would epileptic fit, maybe, or something like that. I don't know, like an internal fit that he would have in the middle of these positions. He would get to the back of Chiesa and he'd go, oh, God, I'm winning here. I better dunk him on myself. That's what it felt like with Neil Magny versus Michael Chiesa. Magny would pummel, turn him around in the clinch, get his back, and then go, I'm winning? I've got to stop it. And then just pick him up and dunk Chiesa on top of himself and smash the back of his head into the canvas. On 3 different occasions he did that, and then Chiesa will just stay in half guard for the rest of that round until 5 seconds left he takes mount and then does nothing with it. It was just an absolute repeat of bullshit constantly in the fight, man. And I think Magny was paid to lose. There's a part of me that does. I'm not over that. I know people talk about conspiracy theories, like, the UFC is a major company. They rig some stuff. I'm not saying they paid Magny to lose, but a couple whispers here and there, we'll give you a ranked opponent anyway. I don't even know. The more I watch this sport, the more I'm starting to think to myself, hang on. What kind of shady deals are going down? Because Magny looked like he was paid to throw that shit. I'm sorry. He just did. Good performance by Chiesa, though. He won. It wasn't a good performance. He got what was given to him. So he won. So good job, Chiesa. Good performance. In the early rounds, Chiesa looked good, though. Good takedowns. Not too loose. Not too stupidly looking on the feet. But still terrible looking on the feet, of course. Because he's only been doing it for a decade. So he can't throw a jab correctly, you know, or a right hand or anything that looks good. So, you know, only a decade though. So, you know, I know that you guys hit pads at home and you can like figure out a jab and how to throw it within like 5 seconds. But, you know, Chiesa's only been doing it for a decade. Give him some time. But he looked good in the early rounds. He was fresh. He had strength. He got a nice little body sweep in the first round, I feel like it was. I don't even remember it too well, but he got some nice sweeps in the first 2 rounds. But then after that, it was so obvious that Chiesa was gassed out. And when Magny got any success, he would just dunk Chiesa on top of him and lose again. And it was so weird to me to watch. Like, I don't know what Magny is. I don't think he's human. I really don't. I think he's some sort of... I don't even know if I can't say it about Magny, but whatever. I could say it about Chiesa if I wanted to, but that's just the world we live in. Magny is a smart guy. Stunning and brave. Stunning and brave performance from Magny. What a retard. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Goodbye. I'll see you later.